This is the Benefits Buzz podcast, your weekly pulse on what's happening in the world of employee benefits. Brought to you by your friends at WEX, who believe in simplifying benefits for everyone. Now listen up and let's get buzzed.
Welcome everyone to season 9 of the Benefits Buzz, a WEX podcast. My name is Chris Herby and I will be your host this season. Really excited to talk about our topic here today, and we have some great experts joining us. So today we're going to be talking about the 2026's top 10 employee benefits trends and what employers need to know. So in 2026, like we saw in 2025, employees are expecting more than just the traditional coverage. They want a personalized experience, smarter tools, and benefits that support their whole lives. For employers, that means rethinking how benefits are designed, delivered, and experienced. And in this episode, we're going to break down the top trends shaping the future of employee benefits, from personalization and wellness AI-driven experiences to smarter cost containment management. Tune in to hear what's changing, why it matters, and how HR leaders can create more meaningful, engaging benefit strategies that truly support today's workforce. Today, I'm really excited to introduce my co-hosts and guests. First, Burgundy Kramer, Director of Human Resources as a business partner here at WEX, and Ben Clements, Director of Product, Data, and Analytics. So I'm going to start off with an easy question, kind of lay the groundwork for us. When you look at the benefits today compared to even just a few years ago, Burgundy, this one might be one for you. What do you think has changed the most?
Yeah, I would say we've really been reimagining benefits throughout the industry. And so it's fundamentally changed from something that companies have offered to now something that employees experience, and really making it easy for employees to navigate and ease of use for benefits across that fits their lifestyle, that fits their needs, their different financial situations. And benefits are also something that, helps attract talent, retain talent, and determine how people perform. And so that's much of the shift, but it's also what's been happening on the product and data side. So Ben, I'd love to hear what you have for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, if I sort of harken back to where things were in, several years ago, right? We were sort of coming out of, the age of cheaper capital, right? 0% interest and all these other things. As those interest rates have risen, cost of living has risen, benefits I see are becoming more and more important in the lives of everyday individuals. And so when they rely on those benefits more, that ease of use is paramount, right? So we need to make sure that we are helping those individuals to reduce their cognitive load as they step from that static content to something that's more dynamic and personalized to them, that they're able to leverage experiences that are as slick and cool as the everyday apps that they use. I won't plug any today, but I miss Mint, right? Intuit used to offer this great solution called Mint. There's some really great apps out there now that just help me better manage my finances. I as a consumer expect more experiences like that really delight. And then the other underpinning theme here is that we need to make sure that we are helping those consumers to see across the full landscape of those benefits so that they can really make those optimal decisions across that we'll say full benefit system, rather than just those point solutions that are out there today.
That's super interesting. So you said something there, Ben, personalization, and I want to ask about that, because this isn't an FSA and FSA and FSA, isn't it just the same thing? What do you mean about personalization? How is that different?
Yeah. I mean, at the highest level of personalization, it's understanding, is an FSA even compatible with the other health accounts that I have, right? If I elect an HSA, this has to be something that is limited in scope, let's say, to vision and dental, right? I may not want to trade off the long-term financial viability and success of an HSA for, say, some of the short-term savings of a traditional FSA. But when we really get down to how do we make sure that Ben as a consumer optimizes for how much he needs to spend on vision and dental, or somebody else may be needing to spend on medical, that really comes down to a whole lot of context that either Ben knows that, say the benefits ecosystem doesn't, or that the benefits ecosystem knows, but is fragmented and not readily available at the point that I need to make those decisions. So we want to bring that together and make it easier for for myself, for others, to be able to make those decisions confidently.
So Burgundy, from an employer's perspective, what does this personalization look like, for their own employees?
Yeah, I think personalization is more of a correction. And what I mean by that is previously or still sometimes today, we offer, benefits that it's a one size fits all approach. And when in reality, like employees are at different life stages, they're in different financial situations, and they also have different health needs. And so offering that same static task package and having a one size fits all approach doesn't make it easy to use, doesn't make it easy to navigate, or for employees to even understand what the whole offering includes or all the small detail behind it. And so that expectation has changed in terms of relevance for personalization, and employers have the data to deliver on that. And so that's been more of a shift of the personalization and expectation from employees.
That's a really good real world example, and I appreciate that. So when you guys are talking about personalization, my sister works in HR for another company, and she has developed a homegrown Excel spreadsheet that she lends to me that I'm able to key in, the monthly cost of this and the coverage limits of this, and that has helped me go through my own open enrollment every year. Are we talking about leveraging something similar to that? Like, how does that sort of journey fit into this personalization talk track that we're talking about here?
Great question, Chris. Yeah, I think similarly, right? And maybe every benefits professional has been in that moment where a friend or family member has asked them, like, how do I make these benefits decisions, right? What's available to me? That's harder, right? If you're a new grad, you've never done it before. It gets easier if you have some experience in the way of this. But ultimately, this really comes down to capturing all of those signals that help the individual make those decisions, right? Those things that we are entering into those spreadsheets might live somewhere, in a way that we can easily authorize and plug that data in to a solution that allows me to make a better decision. But there's also signals at large that we have to separate from, we'll say, the broader noise that's coming through too, right? As more people use these applications, more people use the healthcare system, and as we track more data points, right? Like my watch is constantly tracking, am I standing or sitting? Am I getting enough steps? Those sorts of things. How do we essentially get to a point where we leverage AI, we leverage ML and the feature selection and tagging and collaborative filtering that can be really important to say, Ben looks like a group of people. If other people are making good decisions in this way, here's how we can help Ben make those decisions in a better way as well. And so we can do that in an anonymized, permissioned way, which allows for it not to look like Ben's data is being fed into an AI model, but really it's really just these anonymized attributes that make up sort of a contribution or an aspect of Ben that makes better decisions, as a result of that. And when we all sort of learn and grow together, that sort of makes that whole pool a little bit smarter and able to make those better decisions together.
That's great. Anything that we can do to avoid me having to key in information into a spreadsheet to make decisions is going to be a welcome adjustment, I think, for everyone involved as they go through open enrollment. Burgundy, I have another question for you. I've been hearing a lot in the market around this concept of wellness. And when I started here at WEX a number of years ago, wellness at that point was really kind of focused on physical wellness. What has that definition changed a little bit? I'm hearing it kind of applied more broadly to other concepts.
Yeah, I would say access to tools isn't enough anymore. So we've had strong financial tools in place for a long time, but they're actually underutilized. And so it's less about the awareness and more about how complex the decisions can be in the moment, and shifting that to an embedded guidance into that experience for employees to be able to make decisions, but also make it easier for them to take action and really understand their options fully and what choices somebody might offer them on their benefits, so that they can select the best thing that fits in their life stage or financial situation.
Great. The way you describe that, right? Like there's an intrinsic connection between the financial wellness and the health, of individuals, that overarching wellness. And Chris, when you're asking that question, one thing I heard as well is like we sort of expanded this from the need to be physically well, right? Have I gone to the doctor and got my heart checked and like my lungs look good, to like, hey, am I tuned up mentally? Am I, physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit for the modern day challenges where I'm not spending 16 hours on the line doing hard physical labor, but like I am constantly thinking about a problem or next set of problems, and how do we essentially allow for those tools that are available to our people through their benefits to be fantastic mechanisms to help them sort of course correct and tune, whether it's across the physical therapy set of capabilities, across the mental health point solutions, and just those overall wellness and well-being programs that are out there that often are underutilized, right? And that resonance between the health and financial, I think, is so strong that if I get knocked down because of a physical ailment or a mental ailment, those things are going to have some real impact to my finances, and of course they have real cost to employers as well, right? It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, so I'm encouraged seeing employers focus more broadly on than some of the limited categories of what we had seen previously in a benefits package, right? So you led into it, but financial wellness, I think, is something that a lot of employees spend a lot of time thinking about, right? We mentioned earlier the rising cost of living, interest rates going up. Financial wellness is getting a lot of attention. Why now?
Yeah, I would say broader financial wellness is really important to employees. And I think what we're seeing is that employees that don't truly understand all of their benefits in detail and how to use them are leaving money on the table. But then they can't afford other things that they could be using those benefits for. So one thing that we really want to help them do is figure out how to optimize their FSAs or HSAs and other benefits to help be more financially savvy and optimize and use the tools fully.
That's great. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to pivot just a little bit here. Ben, I'm gonna have you lead off on this one. I'm seeing AI everywhere. It's in Super Bowl commercials. It's in the grocery store. How is AI showing up in the benefits landscape?
Yeah, great question, right? It is everywhere, and at the same time, there's still this big fear of it for a large majority of the population, right? And so, I think from my perspective, trust is really the paramount foundation of like how do we express things, recommendations or insights to people, whether they are the consumers of these benefits or the employers administering these, in such a way that is simple and easy for them to comprehend and doesn't challenge a lot of their fundamental thinking, right? Like if there are big distances between what's recommended and what this individual actually holds as a core belief, we might have a real challenge there. The way that I see it, this playing out, Chris, is really in a few different ways. For the individual, it's about helping those individuals make those better election decisions and enrollment decisions, and helping them to guide through, that entire, enrollment process. Whether it's open enrollment, whether they have life events, right? We're all going through these decisions on a regular basis, and we want to make sure that we're giving individuals an easy experience that helps them with that next best decision. Now, the second to that, when we are seeing the unsung heroes of benefits, right, which are the HR managers who are always doing the things to make sure benefits run in the background. And we want to reduce their burden substantially. And part of the way in which we're doing that is by looking at those things that they're doing on a recurring basis and seeing what we can help them automate through agentic agents, and simply building those better experiences that help uplift those employers as well, so that they can be higher leverage and handle the conversations and the questions that really need to be handled on that personal basis.
Great, thank you. And then Burgundy, we're hearing a lot about, in the vein of personalization, the strategy around simplification for employees. So what are employers looking for from a simplification or experience standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think that we're seeing fragmentation, which is a big barrier to engagement. And so if you think about it, employees don't think in benefit categories, but they actually just want to solve a problem. And whatever that problem is for them, meeting them where they're at hopefully in one system and one platform or tool. So if that experience is spread across multiple systems or creating that friction, it doesn't make that easier to use. It doesn't simplify it into a connected experience. And so I think that in addition to convenience, driving usage through that connected experience and systems is really an important consideration.
I agree. As a user of these platforms, it can be a little difficult to navigate across multiple systems. So that's a great that we in the industry are moving in that direction to bring that simplification down to that end consumer. All right, I have a couple more questions. This has been a great conversation so far, but Ben, I'm going to toss this one to you. There's been a ton of noise in the market around preventative care and how important that is. I'm not naive enough to assume that that's a new phenomenon, but why are we seeing such a focus on it this year?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, right? We all have these preventative care benefits available to us, right? Like I go to the doctor and get an annual checkup and make sure that I'm in a good state. And I think we all know the age-old adage of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that sort of 16-to-1 ratio I don't think is exact when it comes to how much savings there is, but there's substantial savings and early detection, for the individual and for their employer. And in an age of continued rising costs, right, seeing double-digit increases in benefit costs year over year, we are really seeing that crunch hitting employers more than ever. And those employers are reticent to push that down to employees who are already under substantial financial strain. So ultimately, I think we're at a point at which that impasse of rising costs can't be passed to the individual. And so one of the key things is just helping to lower those burdens by identifying those potential high cost drivers earlier on in the process, right? These big chronic conditions that, if identified early, managed well early, can be much more financially palatable.
So that preventative care is not only beneficial to the consumer at an individual level, but it's also helping to reduce some of those costs from the employer to deliver that care. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next question. This one's for you, Burgundy. How is retirement planning starting to shift as we look in 2026?
Great question. I think we can all relate. We all hope to retire at some point in our careers. But I would say that previously retirement has been a single endpoint. And I think the shift is really that people are living longer, they're working longer, and it's not necessarily in the same way or in the same intensity as they did. And so, that shows up in how benefits are designed, how we think about retirement from an employer perspective. And seeing that as more of a transition with more states, flexible, far less linear type of approaches. And so if somebody wanted to go down to, part-time or phase out their retirement in different ways, contractors, different types of approaches, I think that that's really important, but also the flexible pathways of different saving strategies to help save for retirement. And then that long-term financial planning, because it's no longer just about exiting the workforce, but it's really about how you support them over that longer horizon to support the retirement efforts.
That's awesome. Looking at the other end of the spectrum, for newer employees or younger employees, family and caregiving benefits seem to be expanding. What are we seeing that's driving that?
Yeah, so caregiving is really important and probably underestimated shift that we've been seeing as more people are in the workforce. So it's not new. People have always cared, whether you've had, a new baby or if you've done elder care, caring for parents or family members. But previously it wasn't treated as much of a workforce issue. So it's really about employees being able to balance the caregiving responsibilities and showing up in a more visible way to help people engage at work. So I think we're seeing a more increased shift in focus in childcare and elder care resources, expanded leaves policies, and either higher dependent FSA limits becoming more relevant and also more valuable to the employee population.
That's great. Well, Ben, Burgundy, thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Benefits Buzz podcast today. I think it was a great way to kick off our 2026 season. Really appreciate your involvement and expertise as we talked through some of those big trends that we're seeing in the market. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us again on season 9 and for tuning in for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Benefits Buzz podcast, leave us a review, and then most importantly, if there are topics that you want us to cover, leave those in the comments and we'd be happy to get those into the agenda. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
WEX is in the business of simplifying benefits for everyone. Now, although we certainly hope our podcast sparks some aha moments, like that was pretty cool, but of course we cannot provide legal, investment, or financial advice. And, well, therefore, nothing shared in this podcast should be interpreted as such. We encourage you to seek out appropriate professional advice regarding your plans. Hey, congratulations! You made it through our disclaimer. Thanks for listening.